In today's video, we're going to look at the latest rumors from around the NHL. We're going to take a look at the remaining unrestricted free agents, talk about some rumors about players who had other opportunities that they passed up on, plus in the trade market, we're looking at Vancouver, Winnipeg, Boston, Ottawa, Buffalo, the Anaheim Ducks, and more. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of things to talk about here today. First up, I want to take a look at some unrestricted free agents that are still on the market and also discuss a few, I guess they're not really rumors, they're confirmed rumors now, for a couple of the players that had more opportunities than a lot of people may have known. For example, Milan Lucic, who ended up signing in Boston on a one-year, $1 million contract. He did an interview on our podcast, and he confirmed that he spoke to about 15 different teams. So about half the league inquired on Milan Lucic. Of course, not all of them made, offers, but they certainly inquired and kicked tires at the very least. And he did mention as well that he had a lengthy conversation with Chicago. I mean, we know that the Blackhawks were certainly down for signing some veteran players to come in and insulate and protect Connor Bedard, and he was one of the players that they considered. But ultimately, he ended up back in Boston. Wayne Gretzky on the Leafs Nation podcast confirmed as well that he knows that Max Domi had multiple other offers besides the one that he ultimately accepted in Toronto that had more term and more money, and that he passed up for an opportunity to follow his heart and go home and be a Leaf. Of course, his dad, Ty Domi, played for the Leafs a long time. He's a Leafs legend, one of the all-time great brawlers and scrappers from his day. Of course, that's not somebody you see commonly in hockey anymore. Still fighting, of course, but not to the extent it was when he played. And obviously, Domi grew up around it, and grew up in the Leafs dressing room, grew up idolizing Matt Sundin. Obviously, you get to know Matt Sundin, had a career relationship with him. He's grew up around the Leafs and around celebrities his whole life, so he's certainly used to the spotlight and used to the Toronto market, living there and knowing what it's like to not only living there, but like to have a father that played as well. Makes a big difference. So certainly Max wants to be a Leaf, and I've heard other NHL reporters say that now that he's there, he's going to do everything he can to stay there and make the contracts work to be a Leaf. So he's a good team guy. This is a good example that maybe the other Leaf players can kind of looked upon as a guy who maybe left a little bit of money on the table to go where he wants to be and where he hopes to win. So certainly good on them for getting it done. Some good opportunities. There's some players that you may not realize just how many opportunities were actually on the table. Lots of free agents still out there. Vladimir Tarasenko leads the way as far as previous history and what he's done in the league. Ottawa's still very much in the mix apparently, but there's not. They're not alone. There's 3 to 4 teams. And you keep hearing Ottawa and Carolina as the main teams that are NHL reporters are mentioning. But I don't know who the other ones could be. At one point, I heard San Jose. I don't know if that's still the case. It sounds like the Rangers were never really in it, even though there was some speculation that he had an opportunity to sign a cheap deal to Rangers early on. I don't think that's really the case. So we'll see where Tarasenko goes. But lots of other names out there as well, including Matt Dumba, Tomas Tatar, Pius Suter, Dennis Gurianov, Nick Ritchie, Ethan Bear, Thomas Nosek, Max Comtois, Phil Kessel's out there. Paul Stastny, Austin Watson, Tyler Mott, Colin White, Caleb Jones, Brendan Lemieux's not signed, Kibi Rata, who was with Dallas, Noah Gregor, who was with San Jose, Astor Reese with the Leafs. I know some of these guys, it's not like they're huge names and huge pro producers, but a lot of these guys, scored 10 to 15 goals, which is not anything to really scoff at here. If somebody who can be a bottom 6 player and give you some production, and which is at this point what a lot of teams are looking for is the depth options to round out their rosters. There's not a lot of teams that are looking for the higher value player in the top 6. There's a few that are looking to do that via trade, but that's about all. So we'll have to see what happens with some of these players, but certainly lots of interesting names still out there on the market, and really there's only rumors around a couple of them. All is kind of relatively quiet otherwise. So we'll see. I'm sure a lot of these guys are going to get signed. There's still tons of RFAs out there as well, of course, but those are a little bit more controlled situations, especially now that we found out today about the arbitration dates, which I discussed in a video earlier today. So if you don't know all the arbitration dates and you want to get a breakdown of when all these RFAs are scheduled to have their hearings, then check out the video I posted earlier today, which I will link up here in the YouTube cards or I guess over here, wherever it is on the channel on the screen here, and you can have a look and listen to what's going on. As far as the other rumors around the league when it comes to trade, there's still a lot. There's Vancouver media, multiple podcasts I've seen this week talking again with Tyler Myers still being a trade target of the San Jose Sharks. That there's still believed to be a deal in place between those two teams, and it's likely not going to go down for some time. Now, the Canucks are looking to move Myers. That's not a secret. I thought maybe that might change with the other changes they've had on defense. That doesn't appear to be the case. Now, I know there's a big debate over his signing bonus that's due in September, which some people say was done purposely to prevent an off-season trade. But at the same time, I know I've seen some comment and say that it's really not a big deal that the Canucks would be able to get permission and clearance to pay it early if they were going to do that. But I'm not entirely sure if that's legit. I know some people think that, and I'm not going to tell them and say that they're wrong because I can't say that, but I'm not sure that they're 100% right either. So we'll see. But either way, it's believed to be a deal of Myers for Kevin Labanc. The Canucks, to me, would probably want to move another forward out first, and maybe that's what's holding things up. I'm not sure. Could be the Myers signing bonus too. Be curious to see if this deal is revisited, but I know it's been a fairly hot topic throughout Vancouver media in the past couple of days again. So it's still believed that this is something that's going to happen. But we still haven't seen the Tony DeAngelo traded a Philly back to Carolina. I'm not sure if there's something holding that up, or if the Hurricanes are having second thoughts and taking them back, or what's going on there. But that deal has not gone through as of yet, although many of us have expected that it would by now. But we'll see if that ever comes back to life. The New York Post, Larry Brooks is reporting that the Devils have been sniffing around Ducks goalie John Gibson. Gibson's been a player we've talked about on and off here throughout the offseason and towards the end of the regular season. Certainly a player who definitely wants a fresh start. I think that's fair to say. I know there was a big online debate, or I guess you could say incident involving Frank Saravalli and the agent for John Gibson last week, when Saravalli on a podcast had made mention that not only did Gibson want a trade, but he hoped to never play for them again. And the agent Kurt Orhard put out a statement kind of refuting the whole thing. And Frank responded by saying, well, anytime you've tried to call me out publicly before and say I was wrong, you blew up in your face and it was proven that I was right. So certainly, he's standing by what he said. Now, but this is not the first time Frank put out a statement saying that Gibson wanted a trade, and it's never been disputed before. I think it's just the fact that he said that Gibson doesn't want to play for them ever again. I think that if he wouldn't have phrased it that way, it wouldn't have become such a big thing. But apparently Gibson has been gone to the Ducks looking for a deal for over a year, and they have worked together somewhat amicably to try to facilitate that. But Pat Verbeek, the asking price is really, really high. Frank said that last year he had heard that the asking price was multiple first-round picks. And I don't see anybody paying now, which is why it never came to be. Obviously, the Ducks had another underwhelming season. Gibson himself didn't have a great year. But, of course, sometimes goaltenders on bad teams can be victimized with their stats, and it doesn't really reflect 100% what they are. But it can be a little unfair and unjust sometimes. But at the end of the day, Gibson's a good goalie. I'm not sure that he's worth multiple first-round picks if they expect teams to take up the whole contract as well. But the Devils are a team that's been out there sniffing around and contemplating it. They have Vanacek and Schmid, who I think are both capable, but if they have their way, they would bring in an experienced goalie to allow Schmid to play in the minors and have a big role in the AHL and just really have a strong developmental season, take the pressure off, and he'd be a really, really good number 3 guy in the organization should there be any injuries or anything emerge. And that's what they'd like to do, but it's just going to boil down to the asking price and see if they can work things out. There was talk at one point in Buffalo off and on about Gibson. I haven't heard anything lately to suggest they're still in that mix, but at the end of the day, Gibson definitely would like to move on. I don't think it's that of a bad situation like it might have sounded when Saravalli did that podcast. Like, I think if he has to go back, he will. I don't think he's going to refuse to play or sit out or anything like that. But it's getting to the point that he would really wants to be moved because it's been a long time coming. So we'll see where that goes. I know with the Ottawa Senators and the DeBrincat trade finally happening yesterday, there's already a lot of talk about how they're going to replace that because they got Dominic Kubalik in the trade, who can be a decent middle six winger for them. Probably score 20 goals, but are they going to want to add anything else? They really still have a hole on the left wing side in their top three lines. And obviously they've been linked to Tarasenko. That's not a guarantee. As I mentioned, they're interested to do that, but they have some competition. They've got 3 or 4 teams that they're fighting with to try to figure out a deal. Now, before Tarasenko fired his agent, it was reported that the Hurricanes were offering him $5.5 million. I'm not sure how many years, but it was multiple years. It was more than one. Multi-year deal of $5.5 million. I don't really think the Senators can do that. Now, looking at their cap space, if they only have a little over $5 million, and they have to sign Shane Pinto as well. Now, if the Maple Leafs end up buying out Matt Murray, they have retained salary on Murray, so the number that they're holding will drop, so they will get more cap space. It's going to be, I know the exact number right off the top of my head, but I know it's over $1 million that they would get back in salary cap space. So that would actually help them if the Leafs did a buyout. So we'll see if they do. But anyway, that's still not, it's still too tight for them. I think Tarasenko, if it's going to be costing that much, might be a little too rich for them. So, they have to look at other options. And one of the rumors is that they might be looking at Victor Olofsson in Buffalo. And it'd be another trade with a division rival between, if you look at, this is funny because you get Buffalo, Ottawa, and Detroit are all, kind of neck and neck coming out of their rebuilds, trying to push for playoffs. And, you would argue that based on last year's results, Buffalo might be just a step ahead. And then Ottawa's right behind them. And then Detroit's just a little ways behind them. And then, of course, that was based on last year. And then with these changes, could a player go from Buffalo to Ottawa? Another, obviously, DeBrincat from Ottawa to Detroit. Could that kind of close the gap and make things more evenly matched? I guess time will tell. We don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure Olofsson's the guy they really need, but there is some talk that it might be a player they're looking at. He's got 1 year left, making $4.75. So it's a little less than Tarasenko, but it still might be a little bit too much. And I'm not sure that the Sabres would want to hold back any money. Because I don't think they want to trade him like that. I don't think they want to give him away like that badly. He technically scored 28 goals. Like, he's a multiple-time 20-goal guy. Like, I don't think it's something that they should have to do that on, and they probably won't. And I'm not sure what the asking price would be either. So maybe a piece goes out to the Buffalo Sabres to free up some room. I don't know what they would want is the question, because they don't really have any holes on their lineup right now. They have a more put-together roster right now based on all the players that they have in their system, whereas Ottawa still has a couple of question marks. So I don't know that they'd probably want something for like a future base, but they don't even really need that anyway. Like, the Sabres are well positioned here. I really like how they're structured and put together. But at the end of the day, if Olofsson went to Ottawa, I think he'd be a lot like Kubelik. And I guess between the two of them, they probably would score 40-plus goals. So you'd make up the goals from the DeBrincat. Not that you got that last year anyways, but I don't know that he's the answer. I don't know that he's the right guy. I think a guy more like Thomas Tatar or Suter in free agency might be better suited, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But the Senators are certainly going to be making another move, and I don't know if it's going to be with Buffalo. And then there's been some talk, too, about a Bruins and Jets trade, especially if the Bruins find out that Bergeron's not coming back. There's a lot of people that think that Mark Scheifele could become a trade piece for Boston. It makes sense because they're going to be, as much as they're still a pretty good team, they have a decent blue line still. They have a lot of the same pieces there, and then they've got good goaltending. They have to sign Swayman, so we'll see how that goes, but that should work out. The problem with the Bruins is going to be the center position, and Scheifele is still young enough. He's not young, but he's not super old either. He's still at a stage of his career where he could probably give them 3 or 4 solid productive years. So maybe he goes there with a 3 or 4 year contract extension, and becomes that number 1, number 2 center for them, depending if Bergeron's there or not. But if Bergeron comes back and they have Bergeron, Zacha, I don't know if they would bother making a trade. I think this would be more like if Bergeron's not there, that leaves you with Zacha and Coyle, and that to me is just not competitive enough. Scheifele could come in, but the problem is that they may have to end up giving up a guy like Jake DeBrusk. To me, that's probably what the Jets are going to ask for. Wouldn't be surprised if they asked for DeBrusk and something else, maybe a prospect. I don't know if the Bruins are going to want to do that. I mean, the Jets are not going to give Scheifele away. He's been a very productive player for them. And I wouldn't completely rule out the fact that he re-signs and stays there. But right now, all indications are that he and Hellebuyck are still very much on the trade market. So we'll have to see where that goes. But to me, the Bruins and Jets do make excellent trade partners if the stars align and, Bergeron doesn't come back and they need to have a better, stronger not top 6 center, because Zach and Coyle, to me, just won't cut it long term. They won't be anywhere near what they were last year. But let me know what your thoughts are on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.